righty. What's going on, everybody? It's boys back for another episode of the Vols ATB podcast show, whatever you want to call it. We're just here every Wednesday for you. Obviously, got a lot to break down this week. Absolutely mind-boggling. It's that week where everything gets crazy. The basketballs are back. Had their first season opener against Tennessee Tech. Early signing day today. Getting some huge future recruits that we're going to break down. Obviously, we have a lot to talk about from last Saturday against Georgia. Breaking down that and the college football playoff ranking reaction to the Tennessee loss. Obviously, a lot to dive into, but boys, how we feeling?
Alex, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, I'm feeling all right. I mean, I think everything kind of played out the way that we thought it would. Obviously, the loss to Georgia is upsetting, but still not disappointing. We're still right there. We're still in the hunt, and I also think that the playoff rankings we'll get to in a little bit and more in depth. But I think we're in a good spot. You know, I think everything kind of, like I said, played out the way we thought. But wish we had that one back. But there's still a lot more football to play. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not doing too bad either. I've really dissected more, this loss more and more the last couple of days. And honestly, it's not the end of the world. We're still in a fantastic position to be in the playoff. I mean, and we need to continue to remind ourselves the fact that we're even in this conversation in November is unbelievable. So still a lot to play for, big time game on Saturday. It's going to be, I don't know about y'all, but it's going to be a very emotional day for me, knowing this will be the last game in Neyland for the year, especially if this team and, with Tillman and Hooker, or, with Hooker going, and a few other guys too. So, but yeah, I mean, still a lot of football left. A lot of, all three games are winnable, and I think we're in a fantastic position to sneak in that 4th spot.
Yeah, man. I think if you would have asked me, at Skybox, I probably predicted the Georgia game an L. But leading up to all the hype of us seeing what this team did become this year, going into that game, we kind of had that little glimpse of confidence. Obviously, this was probably Georgia's biggest game of the year to them and their fan base, their team, their whole staff. They put effort into this game. Obviously, so much to break down with that. I definitely think like you said, we wouldn't have been here. We never thought we'd be here. Looking at the differential just in talent alone, kind of even crazy that Tennessee's going out here and competing with teams. All in all, man, a lot to break down. I guess to kind of just start off with, get it over and done with the Georgia game. Tennessee falling to number 1, Georgia now ranked number 1 in Sanford Stadium. A crazy environment. I won't lie, that place was kind of crazy on the TV, especially. All in all, I guess we can go ahead and start. Drew, what was your kind of main takeaway from it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was, frustrating for everyone, that was cheering on the Vols to watch this game, just because, there was just a lot of mental errors. I mean, we had 8 false starts that game, 9 penalties for 55 yards, and it just seemed like they were happening in the worst time possible, whether it feels like, on 3rd and 2s in the red zone or things like that. And, and Hooker, I think anyone can't disagree with this. He had his worst game in his career as a Tennessee Vol on Saturday. I mean, just a lot of overthrows, he was holding on the ball too much. I'm not putting this on him because it was a team collective unit as why we lost this game. But, everyone wasn't on their A game, and I think this environment got the best of them. But, the one thing that I try to at least take out of it positive is the fact that, we only allowed 3 points, in the second half to Georgia, which I think is big. I think that first quarter was just way too chaotic, and you knew just immediately once Stetson Bennett got out of that pocket and ran it in for 20 yards for first score, you knew it was going to be impossible just to stop them that day. But I think there's a lot to take out of it. Honestly, I'd rather have this loss now than as opposed to say any of these last 3 games or even the SEC championship for this matter, because there's a lot of room for improvement, but they did not look, in my opinion, they did not look like they were unbeatable. I think if we play on a neutral side, play our best A game, that we can compete with Georgia, and who knows. But, tough loss. No one likes to lose. But, hey, I mean, we're still on track to go to 11-1, so I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, I think it's crazy that we're still – I mean, like we've been saying, we're still entertaining college football playoff conversations with, actual legitimacy this far into the season. We're not crazy. We're not like, dang, what would that look like to be at this point and, be ranked top 5 in the country? You know what I'm saying? So – but, reviewing the game, I remember sitting there thinking when Georgia got the ball first, they were moving, and they were moving early. And then there was the fumble, and I was like, okay, you know what? That might shift this game a little bit. But then we got held up, like you say, Drew. There was a bunch of false starts. I think we had like 4 that first like 2 or 3 series that really killed us. Settled for a field goal, and I was like, that still doesn't feel good. Then Georgia came right back, was moving the ball just like they were, and then you saw the Stetson Bennett scramble for score. And yeah, like you said, this is kind of when you knew, like, dang, like this one really might not be going our way. And it was early. It really was early. But then, like y'all said, like defense stepped up. We made our adjustments, 7-3 in the second half. But the offense just like, I don't know. To me, it kind of reminded me that like they looked scared almost, like a little bit intimidated. Like maybe the environment was crazy, like you're saying, or the moment was a little too big, and that's fine. I'd rather work through that now, like you're saying. I'd rather work through that now than like bigger games that are to come, because there's still, like we've been saying, there's a lot more football to play. So overall, like, yeah, I am disappointed, and I've never seen our offense like sputter like that in a long time. So it does kind of bring you back down to earth a little bit, but maybe that's good. That's kind of the reality check that we needed, because I mean we were firing on all cylinders for the longest time. We know that Hooker's touchdown streak ended, but again, I think like that's expected when you play in a team like this, or not expected, but it's more understandable. But yeah, there's a lot more to play for. I think we recollect against Mizzou this Saturday, and then we get back right on track.
Yeah, man. I mean, like the offense really didn't even have a chance, like with the tempo and getting in the rhythm and, breaking away for big plays. Like the pre-snap penalties definitely didn't help, but also with the crowd noise, man, like it was just wild. To get those 3 or 4 big plays, like, we would run twice or, try to look for that deep ball. Georgia, they put out a blueprint out there. They're going to jam you up front, and they did it with talent. Obviously, they had the talent to keep up with our speed and our tempo and our whole blueprint. But seeing like Ryan Wingo and like all those other guys that were kind of just jamming up on Cedric, all that things happened. Like the injuries that were happening out of nowhere, they weren't major injuries, but when they happened, like that also affected our tempo. Jalen Hyatt tripping on the freaking receiver. The 2 missed balls to Princeton fan, Jalen, and then Brew. Those, big plays. Tennessee needed those big plays kind of late to kind of survive in the game. Didn't get it. Still, they won the second half. And I want to give a huge shout out to our defense, like allowing the least amount of points in this rivalry in a very long time. Like I'm used to Georgia, putting up, 41, 38 and, being like a field goal game or, winning in overtime or on a Dobbs no boot. But they went out there and played their tails off, man. And, to do that with kind of where we're lack, especially on defense with talent, like they went out there and played. It was the healthiest our team has been, but to have like the injuries happen where they have just kind of sucked. I wonder how it goes into next week and leading into the rest of the season. Obviously, we have the more talent than any of these other teams. We've seen what we've done to especially Missouri and South Carolina last year. We know this is a much better team this year, so I don't expect anything like that. But if they try to do that jam up blueprint, it's kind of interesting to see what happens. If I'm talking about it on the Vols ATB show, I know the coaching staff went in there. The first thing was like, all right, this is what we're going to do. I definitely think this offense kind of gets wound back up, but man, like it was just crazy to kind of see the reaction. And I guess we can go ahead and hop into the rankings part of that. The reaction to, Tennessee losing and, being ranked 5th last night on the college football playoffs, and Kirk Herbstreit openly saying on live television that Tennessee's loss to, Georgia isn't as bad or, is just the same as Oregon's 40-point loss. That blew my mind. And, it kind of scares me going forward with this committee because you have so many teams on the outside looking in as well. Obviously, TCU got in. If Ohio State and Michigan's close, I know those teams in the Big Ten are definitely going to, argue that both teams should be in. Tennessee, in my opinion, should have more than like an 85% chance to get in if they win out their games. There's no reason that you should lose to number 1 in Sanford Stadium and not get a shot against them on a neutral site. Like Oregon played them on a neutral site and got smoked. We went into their stadium. Eric Ainge ignited the fire out of the Georgia fan base, and they showed up. Props to them showing up for a 2:30 game. We did it. We got successful against LSU this year, but when you go into an environment like that, the number 1 team with that kind of talent, like they kind of schemed it up, man. And after that, first Stetson Bennett, when they got points on the board, all they focused on was draining clock and being able to stop the big plays, and that really gave Tennessee no chance. But when you look at the committee point of that and say that Tennessee, in my opinion, they should have stayed inside the top 4 last night. But to say, like, looking outside, you have Oregon, UCLA, USC, and all these other teams that are kind of flirting with it. And if they win out, win their conference championship, everyone's going to be screaming for it. But I think, obviously, Tennessee is one of the top 4 best teams in college football, right, guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think I know folks are pissed off the fact that we're like, we're at 5 because, they'll make the argument that TCU has, their biggest win is what? Kansas State, maybe Oklahoma. I think they only have one current top 25 win, which is Kansas State. But we have to remember they're undefeated. And as far as I'm concerned, there's still 3 more weeks of football left. And if you really break it down, Tennessee's still in a great position. If you really compare it to like TCU, for example, they have to go on the road to Texas. They have to play Baylor. They have to play Iowa State, which I know they're 4-5 this year, but Matt Campbell's a pretty damn good coach. And not to mention, they'll have to play Texas likely again in the Big 12 championship. And then you have Oregon, who has to play 2 top 25 teams in their last 3 weeks with Washington and Utah. And Utah's bounced back tremendously from that Florida loss start off the year. And USC has to play, UCLA, who's been great all year, and Notre Dame, who's like found a resurgence and like looked dominant as hell against Clemson last Saturday. And then on top of that, you have Ohio State and Michigan. They're both facing each other, and in either of those teams are going to have a loss. So I know a lot of people are freaking out about it, and they're going to think that there's going to be one way or another that we're going to get cheated out. But at the end of the day, if they really had to boil it down to a one-loss Oregon team that did win the Pac-12, I think the committee still, regardless, is going to look at the fact that both these teams played the exact same opponent, and one team lost by 7 touchdowns at a neutral site, and the other team only lost by 2. And you can honestly argue like, well, Georgia dominated the whole entire game against Tennessee. Sure, Tennessee also missed a few opportunities to cut it to a 1-score game. That Oregon game was done after 5 minutes in the first quarter. It was an absolute beatdown. So I think we just went out, we take care of business. We don't struggle against Missouri, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt. All these teams, we should beat them by at least 1-2 scores without a doubt. We're in. We can only really control what we can control at this point. And honestly, who really has faith that TCU is going to like wind up beating Texas twice and going
up? The thing is, Drew, like with that, like if talking about that we need to blow out these teams we play, I think you just win and we should obviously get in. Like it might be ugly, to finish out the season. We've seen worse happen in UT where we thought that the season, planned that trip at the end of the season and saw it fall on their face. That's not going to happen with this staff. But when you look at TCU's schedule, man, every single game they've trailed going into the second half and had to fight their way back. And it's a first-year head coach under Sonny Dykes, obviously inherited a great program. His family has a legacy there. Cool. I understand the story. I understand that they're undefeated. But, man, like they just came back and barely beat Oklahoma State, who's, like, awful this year. Like, it just blows my mind to see them kind of, like, get that jump. And you have Tennessee, who's, like, what, now 3-1 against top 25 teams or, like, against top 10 teams?
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you on that. But the thing is like for the time being, for right now, you still have to put that undefeated TCU team, who's still a Power 5 team, as we could argue if they're talent-wise, if they really are. But like they're still an undefeated team regardless of the end of the day. You still have to respect that for the time being. And we all know it's going to work out. We all know that like they're going to get a loss. They're probably going to take an L to, if they don't take an L to Texas this weekend, they definitely will in 3 weeks in their conference title game. And the Vols are going to be in it. We're in a good situation. We don't need to get fucking fair, get furious, and have our pick.
I'm pissed off, man.
I'm pissed off, baby.
Way, Walmart. We don't need that.
Where's Jeff Massius? Like,
folks just gotta chill the fuck out, man. Like, it's just
listen, Drew,
way too heated over something.
It's crazy to me.
Important right now.
Wins over top 10 teams: Tennessee 2, Georgia 2, number 7 LSU 1, TCU, Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan, and USC combined 0.
Yeah,
0.
No, I agree. Like in Tennessee has 3 top, with the current top 25, they have 3 wins within top 25 teams because somehow one way or another, Kentucky's in the top 25.
I have no idea how they got in.
Which is more of an A team in college football. But like regardless though, we control our own destiny. We still have like a 65% chance of making the playoff, and I think we're gonna be fine.
See, I was about to bring that up that like even though TCU is number 4 right now, I saw like on the bottom of the ESPN ticker, they got the lowest percent chance to make the college football playoff at like 17%. Like Georgia was in at 91, Ohio State in at like 80s, Michigan I think was in like the 60s, then TCU at 17, and then we're in at like 68%. Like you said, you as the committee, you can't rightfully put a one-loss Tennessee team above an undefeated TCU team when TCU's just done everything that you've asked for them to do. So I don't really know where else people expected us to be. If anything, you should be enraged if we were lower than 5, but 5 seemed like to be our ceiling, and I think that's a very good spot to be in. So that's why that number 1 ranking was so important, so that we didn't have much room to drop. You know what I'm saying? If we were like 2 or 3, maybe we would fall farther. But still, I think being 1 helped cushion that fall just to 5. And that whole bullshit that Kirk said. The only argument for that Oregon Georgia game is that it happened in week 1. Okay. But you still lost by 46. Okay. You look like you ain't never even played a game of football before if you go out there and lose by 46. Like, I know it's a different game by now, but like 46 and 14 do not equate. There is no way, shape, or form that you can say that those 2 teams are equal and that loss is the exact same. I'm sorry.
No, I agree. And they're just saying this, Alex, just because they know that us redneck Vol fans will get we'll get a reaction out of it.
That's the only reason.
They know better. They know better. And I know, like, Bear over from ESPN also said as well, fake Bear, not the real Bear at Family Radio.
I was about to say
ESPN. Fake Bear at ESPN. He was even trying to say it's basically the same thing. And if anything, he was trying to argue that the loss that Oregon had against Georgia actually looks better because, they've turned it around, which I think makes no fucking sense. I mean,
we haven't had a chance to turn it around yet. Like, what?
I mean, we don't have to turn around anything because we've just been whooping ass all season.
It's an outrage.
Like, how do you turn something around if you're just that good? Okay, you had to turn that around because you lost by 46. Like, if you didn't turn it around, you'd be screwed.
Exactly.
And it just blew my mind when this same panel last week was saying that TCU had to have separation and have to improve against lower ranked teams for them to be like a serious threat, that they just weren't seeing enough with their halftime trails. And then this week says that they've been doing enough while dissing them at the same time. I forgot the exact comment, but it was just, obviously when it comes down to it, strength of schedule, our wins, if our only loss is to, the number 1, obviously unanimous team, and they kind of screw us out, that whole like A&M vibe, how A&M got left out a few years ago, it would just, pal pissed off is an understatement, Drew. But like, when you look at the opponent overall, like opponent records, like Tennessee and LSU are tied at the top, 50 and 31, like their opponents, like it's, they're playing main competition. Obviously LSU a 2-loss team, but they went out there, caused 2 earthquakes and beat Alabama in overtime. Like, absolutely crazy. And then you have Georgia. We didn't even mention that scenario. Like, if LSU wins out and somehow beats Georgia in the SEC championship and we don't get in, can you believe? But
I understand that, but dude, honestly, I don't know even if LSU wins out and they win the SEC championship, if you put a 2-loss LSU
team don't make it.
Because it'll be the first in history.
Because if you look at their 2 losses, I mean, I know that first game against Florida State was, I think all of us would agree, was a fluke. I mean, it was just the most chaotic football game imaginable. But then they lost to us by 4 touchdowns at home. Like, you can't put a 2-loss LSU team in there who won the SEC championship and beat Georgia, but leave an 11-1 Tennessee team out whose only loss was to then pretty much the AP number 1 team in the country. So I think, honestly, you win your last 3, you're in. Honestly, I think if we win out, I think you could
be number 3
at the 3 spot, which I personally would hate because I want to go to Atlanta. Because it's 3 hours away for all of us. Oh, except for you, Alex. That's 2 hour flight.
10,
like 10-hour drive. But it would be all a road trip for the ATB crew and the boys, right? But honestly, if we want to make it to the national championship, being at 3 and potentially playing Ohio State or Michigan, and I guarantee it, if we play Michigan, we whip their ass. I think we whip their ass. 3 or 4 touchdowns.
I think we whip Ohio State's ass.
I don't know.
Like, to say that, man, like, I would love to go out to Arizona and California and SoFi Stadium, back-to-back weeks for personal reasons. I'm not going to say why, but yeah, I mean, there's things, more legal there. But obviously, man, matchup-wise, still want to play Ohio State just because, like, we saw what happened when they played Northwestern this past weekend, man. It's just an outrage. Like, before, yeah, man, like it was just awful, man. I get the win was a factor, but that doesn't stop, CJ Stroud from being mid,
right?
And like,
CJ Stroud didn't even have 100 yards passing; he only had 75 yards passing. Like
21-7 to
dude,
1.
That's the thing. And if there's any moronic Ohio State listeners listening to that show, which I know there's at least one.
There's one. There's one.
CJ has no business at this point, after that performance, to have even an argument that he deserves to be the Heisman winner over Hendon Hooker. I'm sorry. Even Hendon, as bad as he played last Saturday, which was his worst performance at Tennessee, he still had 195 passing yards and over 200 yards total. So
Can you imagine?
bomb. He's a bomb.
Have you seen the Stetson Bennett Heisman mentions here lately after he played against us?
Yeah,
Can you imagine?
chill.
Can you imagine if Hendon went out there, he went 3 for 3 in his last games, all blowouts, crazy stats, added to his historic season, and they go out there, he goes into New York and they pull a 1998 or 97 on us
97.
and give it 97 and give it to freaking Stetson, bro.
I'll tell you this right now. If
It's
that
gonna happen.
I'm buying a pitchfork at Walmart. I'm driving my 2004 gold Jeep Cherokee all the way up to New York and protesting. No doubt about it.
That would be an absolute shame if that happened.
No doubt about it.
A shame.
I wanted to touch on the comment earlier. Obviously on Georgia, like if we meet them again, obviously in Atlanta, that's gonna favor them like a lot. Like down there, like I feel like that will. If we catch them, in the end in SoFi, I feel like we have like a lot of fans on the West Coast. It's gonna be harder for us to get out there. I think it's gonna be terrible for the two fan bases. But like I think that there's it won't be what we saw this past Saturday, and I don't think the pre-snap things would be a problem.
I think you're underestimating Vol fans though in Atlanta. There's a shit ton over there. I mean, a shit ton. And honestly, that's the easiest trip out of all of the scenarios.
I was gonna say, like you said,
I would say, I still think it would be like majority Georgia fans for sure. But I think you could see easily like a 60-40 as far as that crowd goes.
That was one thing that I was kind of upset about, like all like the talk of like kind of taking over how we did LSU. Like I didn't hear it on the TV like I heard LSU and Baton Rouge, like how we traveled to Baton Rouge, and like if that does happen, like I know the ticket prices are going to be insane. Obviously, it was crazy to get into Georgia alone, but it's going to be on that same rate probably going into the end of the Atlanta game. So. Like
you gotta think though, Brando, we had a way different start to that LSU game. Like there was the muff kickoff that led to a touchdown, then a field goal following right after the big D Williams punt return. Like we took the wind out of their sails early. They ain't have nothing to cheer about.
Literally the opening kickoff changed everything.
Ruined the game. It ruined the game for LSU.
Like going back to the Georgia game as well. I think that was the one thing that kind of rattled our guys more than anything else. Is like when you really think about our two road games prior to that were Pittsburgh, which was a half-filled stadium, and granted even then I think it was like wound up 10 or 12,000 Vol fans traveling for that one, and at 11 a.m. kickoff in Tiger Stadium over there in Baton Rouge as well.
They still waking up.
Yeah, I mean they're just waking up. I mean you combine the fact with the Georgia game where it's the biggest game probably in Sanford Stadium in a decade. Easily the biggest game between the two programs in several years among that rivalry. And also, being a 3:30 kickoff, I mean, it was just a recipe for it being a rowdy and chaotic environment. And fair play to them. I mean, honestly, their fans, first of all, I don't believe that they were 130 on the decibel level. I think
no shot.
Oh, heck no. Heck no.
They ain't loud as us. I'll just tell you that. They're not as loud as us. They never will be. They can try to act like that, but they ain't. But fair play to their fans on having a chaotic environment and then having their guys rattled because, honestly, after that Stetson touchdown and that bullshit punt, how miraculously, God, curled 90 degrees.
That was literally Trevor Daniel. That was Trevor Daniel again.
Yeah, that was even a better punt than the Trevor Daniels one. I mean, it was absurd. But, it was a combination. It wasn't going to work, but, it's fine. Like I told you right at the start of our show, I still think if we play them in Atlanta or especially if we play them in LA, I like our shot because I think these boys got blood, like they want blood, they want revenge. And I think they can do it.
The last thing I'm gonna say before we switch to the Mizzou game is like the closest home game that Georgia's had this season was the Kent State game by 17 points. You know what I'm saying? So if they didn't show up and be loud for this game, then they're just ridiculous and they're ungrateful. Point blank, they are just terrible fans. Which we know that they're not. They do show up. They show up every Saturday. And if you didn't show up to a number one versus number one in a different poll ranking, then you're just a loser. Like this is the premier college football event all last weekend.
Even prior to the 1-1 ranking, this was their biggest home game of the year because Auburn, we all knew Auburn was going to be awful this year. And they haven't played anybody at home this year. I mean, I think they played, Kent State, Samford, the D2 school, Vanderbilt, and a couple other schools, and that's it. So, I mean, it was always a game they're going to circle around. They fucking hate our guts. I can tell you that personally from growing up over there.
Yeah, of course.
They're still talking about it, bro.
Well,
That's the thing. Like, you know how we like joke around with Kentucky, how like we're their Super Bowl. Like that's how it kind of felt this past week because they knew that really, truly deep down, like Tennessee was that one real threat. And yeah, props to them. They found the blueprint. But like saying, you know, in a couple weeks from now, if we make it into the college football playoffs, which we should, like we're gonna see us again if it's not in the first round or the championship. And I just think that like all things are gonna be on the table with the offense. I thought not only like, you know, where we rattled, but the play calling, like the stuff we usually do, the simple screens outside to kind of set things up, it just wasn't there. And I would love to see, you know, Tennessee kind of go out there and take their whole shot, leave everything on the table, even if that leads, you know, putting plays in danger, you know, defensive touchdowns for them. Like go out there, you know, execute with our talent. Because you saw what's going to happen when it gets depth-wise. Like they have all the depth in the world to go play with you. But on the thing, I can point at their talent, right, and point at Georgia's talent. You look at Alabama, they have more 4 and 5 stars than them. And, you know, we went out there and won by 3. So this game is definitely, you know, winnable. Obviously, you know, 85% of the roster is blue chip players. But when we see them again, man, like Heupel's, you know, definitely going to mastermind something up. Like, you know, him and Golish aren't going out there and getting stopped like that again.
No.
Yeah, there's just no way.
And I think also people need to look at this perspective as well. If we wind up facing them again this year, that means that we made the playoff. And honestly, it's a win-win situation for us anyway, because it means that we made the college football playoff for the first time in school history, first time having a shot at the national title in 21 years. And B, if we win it, you know, great. Then we have, you know, our first national title game in 24 years. So, like, we always got to, you know, it's tough losing these games. Trust me, I hate losing, especially in football. But it's important to look in perspective. And, you know, we just got to, you know, we're going to be fine. We're going to be all good. And we're going to kick the fucking shit out of Missouri on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I guess going into Missouri, like, obviously last year we saw what happened with that, like the first-year Heupel team. That was like the first big explosion game. Went into, you know, Columbus and just exposed them, man. You know, put up, you know, crazy amount of points, went crazy. Still had Tyron Evans, you know, out there breaking free. I still expect the same exact thing when they come in here this week. I haven't forgot about, you know, the one player's comments way back. We're 3-0 since that one Missouri player tweeted on Twitter talking about, you know, seeing Nealon. You know, Drinkowitz's comments, you know, about post Pruitt and like our whole scheme and everything like that. And his kind of smart mouth. He's definitely been talking on the offseason. And then just going out there and proving a point, getting revenge, lighting a fire into this team after this past week. I definitely think they're not going to overlook this one, which is huge, you know, coming off a loss like that because it being a noon kickoff and kind of early. I know it's senior day and it's going to be like a lot of emotions. Go out there and play your best football. Don't start slow. Get up there early again and don't even leave a doubt, man. Just go out there and kind of smack him around. Obviously, Missouri had a good defensive performance on paper against when they played Georgia, but Georgia definitely let off the gas in that game. Missouri's really played nobody. I truly think that we're going to go out there and kind of just run our offense. It's going to be key to see like our defense. I'm not confident in Brady Cook for them, but it'll still be like a huge stepping stone going forward. You know, I thought we saw our best defensive game. So if we can get more locked in, man, take care of offense, get back on track. If this team can come complete in this game and focus, you know, get ready for the rest of the season, don't fall short. Don't let the, you know, the media get to you. Go out there, handle business. It'll be a huge week. Obviously, the main thing, I'm going to be super emotional. Jalen Hyatt, Hendon Hooker, Jerome Carvin, like so many guys, Trayvon Flowers on this team that have been here for 4 years, didn't get their shot at first, you know, stayed through all the stuff. Tennessee lost 30 players. They stayed here, believed in Tennessee, believed in the Power T, believed in Heupel and the new staff. And it's going to all show off this weekend. And I know it's going to be a super hard-hitting thing, man, because Tennessee football dropped that little teaser video, got a little TMI, and, you know, man, like, it's just crazy. Like, I think after this year, we're going to kind of look back at those guys and really value them as Vol for lives. We need to do it this weekend, man, because this is the best team, point blank period. Like the milestones we've had this year it's unreal, and it's all because of these players.
Go ahead, Alex. Go ahead.
You sure, Drew?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, senior day is always so emotional, and we got somebody in the comments asking, is B Shablo asking, who is our favorite player on this team? I kind of want to reformat that question and say, like, who's our favorite senior on this team to respect and show appreciation for those seniors, or maybe even people that we might suspect that are going to the draft. I don't know if we've heard any rumblings about anybody, but pick a favorite senior. Who's your favorite senior from this year's team?
Oh, I mean, it's got to be Hendon Hooker, man. I mean, you know, in my opinion, he's the best quarterback Tennessee's had since Peyton Manning. I mean, you know, the complete turnaround he had, especially compared to last year, as well, especially from that first game against Missouri. I mean, his first game against, or not Missouri, Pittsburgh, was phenomenal. But, dude, I mean, he went from being, a lot of people thought an all SEC quarterback potentially to, I mean, a Heisman frontrunner. And we haven't had anyone like that around here almost, in 25 years. I mean, really since Peyton. And just being that vocal leader and turning around and just being the face of the program. And he's a great ambassador for the university. And I think he's going to go and wind up as being one of the greatest quarterbacks who's ever played at Tennessee football. I mean, it definitely have to be him. I mean, maybe one of y'all can give me an answer to this. Cedric Tillman, is he a senior this year technically?
He has a year left. Obviously, it's going to be key to kind of see what happens there after the whole season and not only really getting back fully this past weekend for Georgia. How he finishes the season is probably going to be key. But, that's going to be one definite look at to see. That would help us a lot if he did come back. But I fully expect him to probably capitalize on the draft stock.
I think he will too. But if I probably, as far as the story wise, I mean, Hooker has a great story, but I think it's hard to argue otherwise that anyone has a better story in this team than Tillman did, especially considering, he wasn't really a big-time prospect coming out of high school. Really, he only had 4 receptions within the first 2 years at Tennessee. Was, on the back of the, depth chart at the wide receiver position under Pruitt, and then just merged, just this breakout star and being one of the best wideouts in the country. But, man, it's hard for me to say even A players just because this whole entire senior class and this team it's so special. This is, as y'all know, this is a team that we have dreamed of since.
Literally.
Since being kids, being Vol fans. Even being this talk. So, it's hard to say, but I'll be honest with you, man. I'm going to be fucking teary-eyed there and kneeling on Saturday.
Absolutely.
When I see these guys run through the teeth for the one last time.
I think obviously offensively, I'll keep it with the receiver, Jalen Hyatt, just how he rebounded, as a freshman year, had that one big play against Bama. Last year, he lost his spot, was underweight the majority of the game, came back in the Purdue bowl game. This year, he took full leadership and, went out there against Bama, 5 touchdowns and 6 catches, absolutely ridiculous, crazy performance. He's lived up to all the hype, broke the freaking receiving touchdown record, and is on pace, still finish crazy if he, gets back right in these next 3 games. Defensively, one I didn't mention, man, Jeremy Banks.
Yes.
Jeremy Banks, man. It's just crazy, man. A redshirt senior. I had to make sure it was real. A guy that went through it all, man. From the dash cam video way back, Pruitt saying, I've never seen silly shit like this in my life. So him rebounding, becoming a full team leader last year, was encouraged to go to the drafts, came back, gave the staff an extra year. I feel like that's a guy that's become a true leader, a true man as a Tennessee Volunteer, not just as a football player, but a legit man and changing his life around. To see him go to the NFL, he definitely is an athletic freak, and I think he can definitely adapt, only playing linebacker 2 years. When he gets to that next level, man, he's going to be a special guy with a story.
Well, I think another guy that we're forgetting about is Big Byron Young. Coming out of high school, he was managing something or working something.
Yes, he was an assistant store manager at Dollar General 3 years ago.
That's it. Yeah.
Saw a form for Georgia Military College and wound up trying out for them and then making the team. And exactly. Rest is history.
Yeah, it's almost as inspiring as I don't want to compare the two, but it's a similar rags to riches story, like Hendon Hooker with getting benched at Virginia Tech with a medical issue and then coming over here and finding his way. Like you said, dude was managing Dollar General, lucks up into football at that Georgia Military College, then becomes one of the top defensive ends in the whole country, about to make millions on Sundays. Mm-hmm. And also let's not forget that this man has BY, his own initials, branded into his arm. That's a dog. That's an absolute dog. But seeing him wreak havoc on the defensive line, especially after we had Derek Barnett, has been so much fun. Just seeing somebody get after the quarterback like he does. Brando, I'm glad you mentioned Jeremy Banks because he also had some of those plays where you're like, man, you were so good, but you were so bad at the same time.
Bro, yeah. Speaking of Missouri, like how we're speaking about Missouri last year, that almost pick 6 he had early in the game,
yes,
he just ran around, running free. all the hits. Definitely the one on Anthony Richardson this year where he stood over him like Leonard Little. Like,
Yes.
man, there's just so many moments, and to like know what that guy went through coming from, Cordova, Tennessee, out in Memphis, making his way when, no one thought he would be back on this team. The defense of Jawan Jennings made his way back, and dang, he became a legend just like that on the other side of the ball. Two kind of like, similar kind of stories with everything. Man, Jeremy Banks is going to go down as like, feed the bull is always going to live on. We think of Jeremy Banks, and it's just like, it's crazy, couldn't hold on to the ball on, offense, and now he's taking the ball away from you on defense, and he's done it well. What a special story for that kid, man. Like, obviously, it's crazy that we're kind of like haven't even talked about Missouri like that because we're so, worked up about the seniors.
Golly, I mean, seriously, what all of these kids been through? Everything.
Man,
Everything, man. They went through Pruitt. They went through a pandemic, and now they're here almost like, were on top of the college football scene and still very much alive in the playoff hunt. I mean, like,
I'm just saying,
Tennessee's sort of incredible.
Tennessee's the number 4 team in the country, and then you have, those guys that some, they were forced to leave, but they still left anyway. They didn't want to sit out a year. They didn't want to stay and risk that. And now look at that, Henry Toto, Keyshawn Lawrence, Wanye Morris, Eric Gray, with the struggle. Yeah.
Crouch.
So like, Quavarius Crouch, who transferred from Michigan State. He's not even playing football anymore, man. So it's like these stories that just keep happening, and then seeing these guys that stayed, Trayvon Flowers, Jerome Carvin, Jeremy Banks, Cedric Tillman, Ramel Keaton, he's still a senior. Like,
I mean, and that's the thing too, though, is like, and you got to take a perspective, especially, I mean, look at from Jeremy Banks' perspective, guys. Literally one of his very first games that he played at Tennessee was that Georgia State game. I mean, literally one of his very first games in Neyland Stadium was literally seeing Tennessee at the lowest it has ever been in its program history. And then just to have him be at the same program, go through the rock, absolute rock bottom where we were depleted, brand new coach, nothing going towards our way, and the NCAA investigation, and then go through this in his last game being as a Tennessee Volunteer at Neyland Stadium. We're a top 5 team, and we're in the national championship talks. Like that's why. I mean, like that's why like he will be regarded at like he's in the same status, in my opinion, and a lot of those other guys. That whole entire senior class in general, those guys are in the same level as Al Wilson, as Leonard Little, as Dale Carter, as all these guys that we've talked hype about for years. They're the same legendary status. I mean, they'll forever be embedded in Tennessee football history, and deservedly so, because those guys stuck it through it all. They could have left and gone, took the easy way out. They instead stuck it through because they were, all Tennessee, all Vol. And, I mean, they deserve nothing but love for the rest of the time they ever come back to Knoxville. They really did.
Agreed.
Yeah, man. It's just, crazy. Obviously, all the emotions are going to be there. The final home game of the season, they were on the road. Then we come home back in Nashville taking on Vanderbilt, which basically is a home game. Like, we're going to checker that stadium. I fully think the whole checker thing is like a whole thing now that we're winning and doing it. Like, it's just going to be wild to go into there, 10-1, probably finish 11-1. Just as, touch up on the Missouri game, the ESPN FBI giving Tennessee a 92.8% chance to win. They have their, quarterback Brady Cook. He's, kept him kind of close in that Georgia game, but his stats, man, 6 touchdowns, 7 picks, under 2,000 passing yards, 163 for 248. Their rushing game, not really all that, kind of on par, a little bit lower than Jabari Small. He's averaging, 509 yards, 5 touchdowns. And then their wide receiver, you would think Luther Burden, they're like, high impact freshman. D Lovett kind of leading their way there. Only 659 yards, 2 touchdowns on the season. So when you look at our guys, our skill guys, obviously our offense, if they come out there on all cylinders, I think that our defense has a chance to kind of suffocate this team. I just don't think, that we're going to come in and, take them non-serious, especially with all that's on the table now, coming off the loss, senior day. I definitely think it'll be on fire. Definitely need that, like, hyping early on defense. I want the crowd to be wild there, man. I know it's a 12 o'clock, noon kick. But, man, last game of the season, you're going to see probably the most emotional video packages. Tickets aren't that expensive, right now. No matter like where you look, people are, they can't go. They're not being too much with the price. If you can be there, you don't have anything to do Saturday, go to Neyland Stadium, man. Go tailgate for a little bit. Enjoy it one last time this year, because if you can't make it for the bowl game or, the college football playoffs, no matter where we end up, you're going to kind of look back and be like, dang, like this was the best team in Tennessee in decades. And, I could have had a chance to go do that. So definitely be there, be loud. I definitely think that we should go out there and handle business. I think the key to victory is definitely getting the offense on cylinders. I kind of want to get y'all's probably the same. Just seeing that offense get back in rhythm. It's going to have to be probably the number one thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. First thing first, you got the our little thing at the bottom saying that we're playing at 3:30, not at 10. So,
oh yeah. I mean that would yeah. Okay.
I don't want our listeners to get a little confused with that because it caught me off guard for a second as well.
Well, only Dan would believe that. So, I mean,
yeah, exactly. That's for sure. I mean, I'll give Missouri a little bit more credit though. They are not very good at offense. That's for sure. Only averaging, less than 20 points a game for the last 5 games. But they have a top 15 defense, ranked 14th, only averaging to allow 21.5 points a game. But I think it's going to be a little bit similar like how the Kentucky game was. I think we're going to fire off all cylinders, and these guys are going to want to put an absolute beat down after our tough loss last Saturday. And I think we'll easily cover the spread, and I think we'll easily win by 4 or 5 touchdowns.
What is the spread?
It's 21.
Oh, yeah. I say we right on line there somewhere, but I don't think this goes exactly like it did last year. Because I mean, hanging 62 on somebody is kind of wild. It just boat racing them in their own place like that. But I do kind of see us hanging around like 38 to 42. What you think more, Brando?
Yeah, I gotta I know it's not 62, but I got us scoring 59 points.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
59 to 7. My final was 59 to 17.
Okay, no, I was saying at least 49 to 17. I think that's a little bit more realistic than freaking.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to.
I mean, guys,
they're going to wind up putting in the second, third string in the second half, and I mean, even Navy Schuler is going to have a couple reps in there as well.
I'm thinking 42
or 40. I mean, excessive.
I'm gonna say
I don't know, man. I don't know if to take him out that early, just because being senior day, obviously we've got to stay healthy. If we're up, take him out, definitely get healthy for the season. But probably at least play as much as they want to, get that final rep just to be satisfied. But we're averaging, 200, more yards on offense plus than them. Our offense is obviously 10 times better than them. Defensively, they're barely giving up just, less yards than us, yards allowed on defense. Most of that coming from the passing game. And I can just imagine, Jalen Hyatt, Brew McCoy, or Steady, cool props to Georgia. They put a game plan to go guard all those 3. But I just don't think that, Missouri is going to be able to double one and, leave the other 2 open. I don't think they have the talent, the speed, or the physicality to, stop us from getting off our gaps and getting open. Right. So I definitely think that, this is the game where, Hendon Hooker, here's all those, as he was walking out, all those overrated chants he got, all that stuff, those, being talked by Georgia fans. He's going to come out here and throw for 5 touchdowns, maybe even 2 rushing. I have Hendon, being responsible for 90% of the touchdowns. Maybe Jabari Small or Jalen Wright gets in there once the defense scores. But I feel like this is a full grab the sticks moment. Hendon Hooker, Heisman, go out there and just destroy him, man. It's Missouri.
Hey, with it also being senior day, you got to watch out for QB Princeton Fant or running back Princeton Fant or receiver Princeton Fant. This is one of those games that you like to see those wild packages, get some people some play calls that they don't normally get. So you might see him show out a little bit, honestly, or you might see a different senior show up today or Saturday.
Hey, I forgot Jacob Warren. There's so many guys on this roster, man.
So many weapons.
Damn, we're losing a lot of guys after this year, aren't we?
Hey,
I think they have a lot of them.
Our defense has a ton of leadership on it. There's a lot of seniors on our defense.
Oh yeah.
I think a majority of our players that could leave are probably going to come back just, based off that extra year. But we obviously know the ones, that are definitely gone. And Brew McCoy, he could possibly leave. The NFL draft, man, it's not just about what you did during the season. If you have go out and show out at the combine, let's say one guy wants to go entertain it, he's just a crazy combine performance from, not coming back. So I definitely think Cedric Tillman, Jalen Hyatt, Hendon Hooker, obviously going to be the ones to take advantage of it on the offensive side. Jeremy Banks, Trayvon Flowers. It'll be interesting to see if he, gets picked up. But overall, man, I think should be all right going into next year. But it's just crazy, man. This team is so underappreciated right now. I feel even though it's a historic season, when we truly look back on it, obviously, hopefully, there's better years. We keep getting better and better and better. And look back on it in a positive way, not dang what we had. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely going to be that one team that historically, offensively, it's historic what we're doing right now. It's absolutely insane.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't think it's going to be like a one-time thing where, like, after this year, we're going to be, an 8-9 win middle SEC team. I think this is the foundation of something that's going to be very special. And Tennessee is going to be the second best team in the East and one of the top 3 teams in the SEC for years to come. But yeah, no, we got to soak it all in. I mean, this is the best Tennessee football team in my lifetime. Easily the best one of the best ones since '98 for sure. And appreciate every moment we got, and especially appreciate that last home game on Saturday too.
You know what else? I like, y'all just keep talking about this. It's absolutely asinine to me that people were like genuinely mad. I mean, I get like being disappointed in the outcome, but people were like pissed off that we lost to the point that they were just like, oh, like we're not good enough to do it, blah blah blah. Bro, first off, the fact that we were in this game says a lot. Still, you look at it, it is our first loss of the season 9 weeks in or 10 weeks in. Okay. Like, people got to chill out.
Yeah.
This shit is incredible. Like, what we're witnessing is still incredible. And there's a 100% chance that, or not 100% chance, there's a fantastic chance that we still have, we make the college football playoffs. Everything that we dreamed about and set goals for ourselves this season are still 100% within reach. So the fact that fans really were like, oh, like, we're not good enough, blah, blah, blah. Okay. It's still way better than anything you thought was going to happen this season.
Facts.
Chill out, dog. You know what I'm saying? God, people piss me off so bad. They don't look, they don't read the room. They don't look back, I don't know, like 700 days ago when we were 3-7 sitting there twiddling our thumbs, asking for handouts and McDonald's bags. Okay? Like, I'm tired of it. I'm so tired of it.
I'm with you on that one. And some of the fake, I agree with you, after the game on Saturday, it was ridiculous. Like, those people that were outraged about us losing by 2 touchdowns to Georgia those were not the same people that were there when we lost to Wyoming at home in 2008, or the Derek Dooley era, or when we lost to Georgia State at home, really by 2 touchdowns. I mean, I know we lost by 1, but like, they really were up by 2 touchdowns the entire game. Or the fact they saw us go 3-7 in 2020.
Yes.
Or totally, how can I forget, go winless in the SEC in 2017 as well. Like, these people that are getting pissed off about it, they're a prisoner of the moment. I mean, that's the perfect way. They are way too hooked in the moment, and they cannot look at things in perspective. So, realistically, we've already exceeded our expectations, guys. I mean, we're 8-1. We're about to have a 10-win season, and we're in the talks of college football playoff and chances of like playing for a national championship. None of us between the 3 of us had even thought that was a possibility.
No, we have the proof. We have the receipts.
None
of us thought that.
I'll be more than happy.
Jesus.
But like, let's dial it down. We still control our own destiny. And people that are doing this fake outrage, get over yourself. Like, quit being childish. Act like you're ridiculous.
God.
So just to, touch on this historic season, obviously going forward, the 1 loss, like, if you, obviously I agree with y'all, if you think that's the end all be about, like, you're stupid. Like, we got a chance to make the college football playoffs here, and there's a realistic shot. Milestones this season, man. First number 1 ranking since 99, obviously. First top 10 win since 06. First top 5 win since 05. First win against Bama since 06. First 8-0 start since 98. And the first ever 5 touchdown game by a wide receiver in the man Jalen Hyatt himself. Like, man, like, there's just milestones on milestones. We got 3 more football games to play, and the future's bright, man. And like, we talk about it every week. The kids are taking notice of it. Obviously, yesterday, 4-star offensive tackle Bison Lang from Pike Road, Alabama, commits to Tennessee. A huge pickup, 6'5", 345 pounds, like an absolutely beast kid that's going to, fall under Ellerby. That's a huge need. You still got, 5-star David Hobbs out there, defensive line, a guy for Rodney Garner that he's probably going to steal late. Sounds like Georgia replaced Alabama in that race. It's a Tennessee-Georgia battle with Tennessee still leading heavy. The family connection playing a huge part there, recruiting his sister in her sport. So if they can get the whole family thing vibe going, that would be huge to kind of put Tennessee over the hump. You got Tyler Scott, cornerback, 3-star. It sounds like he's, really interested in the Vols. Could be making a decision soon. That guy, he's a 3-star rating. Alabama, Auburn, everyone in the SEC offered him. Definitely a late bloomer in this class, blowing up. And then the real surprise yesterday, 3-star running back Khalifa Keith, decommits from Kentucky, been offered by Tennessee for about a month now. been on like 3 visits. Is going to be back here next week, coming off a decommit, coming in for his visit. Would not be surprised to see that guy end up a Vol in the next week when he comes in here for the Missouri game. So that would be a huge pickup at the running back. Apparently that's like their next Chris Rodriguez, or they've been comparing him to Dudkins from Ole Miss, like a big body guy that's just like a special talent that's going to blow up late. Definitely would be a huge pickup. Definitely, excited to see these 2023s, especially this year, who didn't give this staff the chance early on in their recruitment when they first got here. Didn't really trust them, haven't really trusted them. You're still seeing it with, how he missed out on Cardinal Tate and Francis. But now, putting it on the field, getting back in these conversations. We had basketball early signing day today, but, football early signing day coming right around the corner. And I've heard a lot of things like Nico, Shandavian Bradley, Sham Uvarov, and a bunch of other guys in this class are going to be early enrolled. And if we make it to the college football playoffs, those kids are getting playoff practice experience before year one, and already looking at this class, you're like it's special in general. So to get that kind of, practice under your belt, if we can get Nico in there practicing with like Hooker and, Joe going into the playoffs, man, and learning that system, like that just excels that kid's, chance to, start next year. And that's going to be obviously a huge story in the offseason. But just recruiting overall, man, definitely some names to watch. And Tennessee's definitely getting back in on some battles that they were completely out of. It's insane.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think really people really need to realize like how important it is if we are able to get these kids like Nico and Jadavian Bradley, especially if they are able to play in these like, playoff, practices and have like a couple reps in there. It played huge for Gerald Mincy when he transferred from Florida, because he had about those 2 weeks where he practiced with the team before the Music City Bowl. And it gives you such a massive advantage compared to everyone else, especially considering if you're already into that system by the end of the year, and then especially start off with spring practice. So, this recruiting class is going to be unbelievable. This is kind of like what we all really waited for, like having like a 5-star quarterback, several, loaded Saudi guys on defense as well. And and who knows, maybe Nico, Jadavian, a couple other guys, we might be adding a couple more 5-stars by the end of, by December or so. So, I think it's an exciting time. And even if the drop-off, if a lot of guys were losing this year, I don't think it's going to be that much of a drop-off going into next year. There's going to be a couple guys you're going to need to replace for sure. But, when you're considering that, like, our quarterback options are either going to be Joe Milton or Nico, and, can't forget Traven Jackson either, we're in a good spot, guys. It's been a long time where we've kind of, like, had that much talent in the quarterback room, competing for a starting position. So, I think folks should be more excited. Still not take away from this year as well, especially. But, guys, the future's bright on Rocky Top. Things are only getting better. Not only we're a football school back, once again, we're also a basketball school or a baseball school. Quite honestly, we're fucking great at everything. And there's not anything that anyone can do about it either.
No, absolutely. I think the worst thing that could have happened for the college football landscape is for the Vols to get good. Because if that story out of Columbus, Ohio is true, them coaches telling Cardinal Tate not to come visit, people are scared. People are scared of us getting good again. Because like you said, I really do not think this is just a flash in the pan. Do we take a step back next year? I do kind of predict that we do. But when have we ever, let's say we finish 11-1, and we'll talk about like postseason stuff later when it comes. But let's say we finish 11-1. When have we ever followed up an 11-1 season with like a 9-3 consistently like that? You know what I'm saying? Or like when is like you're saying, Drew, when is the talent dropped off from season to season? Yeah, I think we do lose maybe 1 or 2 more games next season, but that's vastly different from being 5-7 and hoping like, dang, I hope we make it to the Music City Bowl next year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or us going like 6-6 and going somewhere and then be like, I hope we can build on this and make it to a better bowl. Like, I don't know, the Tax Slayer Bowl. When have we been here? Okay.
We literally thought after that 2014 season, like 6-6, we're like, my God, guys, this is it. Like we're turning things around. By 2 years from now, we're gonna have a 9-win season, and we're gonna play in the out. It's different levels, and like it's a different feel with this coaching staff. It's like you're gonna have a drop off next year, but it's not gonna go from like being a 10, 11, 12 win team to 6 wins next year.
Exactly.
Like the expectation now for next year, and I'm sure within the next several months before our opener against Virginia, we'll talk about it. But they set the bar now. We're like, 8-9 wins next year is the bare minimum.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
if we're 9-3 next year, that's great, that's fine. But I mean, but this is the standard they put, and and that's where you want to be. I mean, and we shouldn't worry about it. I think, if anything, we should be fired up again. That we're in these conversations where teams like Ohio State, as Alex mentioned, are telling recruits, do not go visit, because things can only be going well if other schools are telling you
They're
not.
terrified.
Oh, yeah.
Terrified. They tell them to come visit in recent years. They'd be like, "Oh, the Vols, the 3-7 Vols, yeah, go catch a game if you want to joke." You know what I'm saying? Like, please go visit. You'll see how embarrassing it is.
Man, and it's crazy to talk about drop-offs, but we forget we didn't even mention talking all the recruiting, the junior college kids we can go after. The transfer portal is definitely a thing, and like Alex Golis quoted this week, he was asked like, are y'all ready for the offseason of seeing positions of needs? He's like, yeah, we've been doing that since week 1. So there's definitely going to be guys, and you can have those conversations now, or your teammates can have conversations. Your players can go talk to one of their old friends from school and be like, hey, man, you want to go ball? Like, we're 9-1, 8-1, and out here balling, going to the college football playoff in year 2. So obviously, a lot of guys might get processed. A lot of guys will leave. A lot of guys will move on. But there's no reason that with the replica on the field, like the blueprint out there, what we want to do, that guys aren't going to be lining up crazy to kind of just hop in. Obviously, you got to keep on winning, win big games, and get to that final stage. But if you get into the college football playoffs, you're basically promised a top 5 recruiting class for the next 5 years. In the SEC, we saw it with A&M, Georgia, Bama. You get in, you're going to skyrocket no matter what. I kind of wanted to, hop in. Obviously, talked a lot of football. We're kind of leaving out the boys, the basketballs, and the lady balls. Obviously, the lady balls falling short yesterday. They got a lot to clean up. A lot of big news for the basketballs today. Like, obviously, coming off the Tennessee Tech game. But I wanted to, solidify the 2023 class. We had 4 early enrollee signees. Cameron Carr committed yesterday, 4-star combo guard, 87th player nationally. Huge pickup. Roommate of Cade Phillips at his school. That was a huge kind of surprise, not knowing where he was going to kind of end up. Obviously, Freddie DeLone, 4-star combo guard, the number 24th overall player in the country, 5th combo guard, a huge pickup who just dropped 36 points last night after his commitment, signed today. Joseph Estrella, the number 39 player overall, number 7 center. Tennessee and Rick Barnes getting a lot of help down low to go with Toby Awaka last year, and now this huge blue chip guy for this year. A much needed piece down low, I think that Tennessee needed. And then Cade Phillips, obviously a power forward, Alabama legacy, ends up at Tennessee, has a story to write for himself. All in all, a huge, great class, huge additions that are going to benefit Tennessee in the next years when we lose some guys like Josiah and Stanny. But let's just touch on that game this past week, Drew. How did you come away from the first game against Tennessee Tech? Obviously, we got the dub, but it wasn't pretty in the first half. The second half, way better, more beautiful basketball. What were your kind of takeaways from that game?
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought we struggled a little bit offensively in the first half, which, you should expect, especially for a season opener. It doesn't matter if you have the most veteran guys out there. Like those first game jitters and everything are still real for anyone. We won by 32. So, it's hard to really complain that much about it. The one big takeaway for me, or two really, is that, and guys, Tyreek Key, what a dog. I mean, what
Just as good as advertised, dog.
What a dog. I mean, shooting 50% from the three-point line, leading the team with 17 points in his Tennessee debut. I mean, I think a lot of us thought he would be a good addition. But, I mean, honestly, I feel and we'll see more of him, when we play a pretty decent Colorado team on Sunday. But they're going to find a way, one way or the other, put him in that starting 5. Another thing, and I know you guys are going to be surprised about this stat, we shot 44 three-pointers.
Yeah.
44 three-pointers on Monday. I know Rick, it's crazy to think, 2 years ago when we had Jaden Springer and Keon Johnson and all them, where we were taking so many shots within 10 or 15 feet from the basket and weren't shooting the 3 at all. And within less than 2 years, we're now 80% of our shots in that game on Monday were three-pointers. I mean, 44 in the first game is it's absolutely bonkers. And I think, I think it just I think it shows that Rick Barnes is willing to change some things and really try to have a different layout offensively because he knows the game's evolving. So, and that's what a lot of teams are doing now. I mean, we're trying to play the same pace and level as teams like Auburn, trying to shoot a lot of threes and things like this. And I think I think we're only going to get better. I mean, we still, in the grand scheme of things, went 31% from the 3-point line, which isn't really that bad. And it will only get better once our guys get more comfortable over there. I think the one thing that we have to realize as well is, I mean, I love Uros. Uros, great guy. But I mean, we can't expect too much out of him this year. Okay, I mean, I know he had 13 points against Gonzaga, but I'm starting to think this is just what Uros is, which is be a big body, downside. He can't score, he can't really move. Kamwa, I mean, I know he had a big offseason this year, and a lot of people are talking big about him, but maybe he'll show more in the game on Sunday. But I just wasn't really impressed that much with our bigs. I think Julian Phillips, he's going to improve tremendously. It kind of seemed like, I don't know if y'all would agree with this, but it kind of seemed like he was forcing a lot of shots.
Yeah. Those early threes, a little forced, but he kind of, at least he was getting back there, man. He had a few huge blocks in that game. Obviously, the one sending that one outside. Definitely saw why he was a 5-star, blue chip player. But I feel like those threes, like he definitely was like kind of like trying to rush to get used to things and kind of get in the rhythm. Not really, used to seeing that in our offense. Obviously, you see like a lot of passing around to get that open shot. Definitely want to see that. The overall threes, I wasn't mad at the overall threes. Obviously, the first half percentage being awful, but finishing over 31%. And then, being, 100% at the free throw line, man. I know it was Tennessee Tech and the free throws didn't matter, but it was just huge to see that finally after last year, I thought.
Oh, God. So, as you say, like, especially in Kenny Chandler go like 65% from free line, and like in a way was like a complete liability for us. I hope this is a trend onwards to something, because honestly, that's where you're going to win games right there. If you're able to shoot consistently 80, 85, 90%, or even beyond from the free throw line, that is the difference more than anything else, and especially in those big games. And I think, Colorado on Sunday is going to be a really good game, really fun, contested game. Obviously, Nashville should be a good, decent crowd for us nonetheless. But this is a team last year that beat Arizona when they were number 2 team in the country. And, I mean, they made the NIT last year, but, they've made the NCAA tournament 5 of the last 10 years. So they're not a bad basketball program. They're actually kind of underrated in a sense. And I think it's going to be a good test. I mean, I'm excited, looking forward to watching it.
Yeah, I think obviously a lot to clean up going into Colorado, but this is probably the most loaded roster we've had in like a while, just of overall talent. And seeing guys that were switching in and out, like Josiah Jordan James obviously had a lot of shoulder issues in the offseason, but came in and, came off the bench, still had a good game, wasn't scared to go out there, make contact, drove to the basket, kind of got the team, I felt like, going for a little bit there, just using his leadership. And to have him, Sandy, and even though Euros isn't like a playmaking factor on the bench, like, energy-wise, seeing that guy at all the Spire tailgates, like I know they're all bringing the energy. This team is definitely all on good chemistry. I don't think it's gonna be really hard for a team to get under our nails and stop us from playing from Tennessee basketball. That defense looked as nasty as ever. Obviously, a huge game to shot in Nashville. Kind of getting back to the Nashville fans after Penny did us dirty last year. Taking the Nashville fun away, pulling out as we were already in the stadium. I was in my seat last year for that game, man. I was going to my first Tennessee basketball game. I was so happy. We were going to beat Memphis, and Penny pulls out of the game. So hopefully this year, the Colorado, are they the Boulders?
Yeah, no, Buffaloes.
Colorado Buffaloes. Hopefully, they have some good sportsmanship show out. I definitely want to see all orange. If you're not going to the game in Missouri and you're from the Mid-State, go to Bridgestone Arena. $10 for a ticket right now. General admission is $10. Like, there's seats available. Go out there and be loud. I know a lot of people haven't seen Tennessee play in basketball, but this is a team that, you probably want to go and see those games early, because this season, looking down to it, like on paper, man, like if they get it all together, if those 3 points fall, even though we're taking 44 attempts, like if we even hit close to 40% of those, like we're going to be a team to be unbeaten with. And just crazy, like finishing strong. In football, you're so used to getting to that time of the year, looking forward to basketball because football wasn't going our way. We have a college football playoff to look forward to. And then, talking about the possibility of Rick Barnes getting to like a Final Four Elite Eight. Like, it's just crazy to see. And everything's on the table, Alex. Like,
true.
Like, it's just wild, man. You got Josh Heupel and Rick Barnes, like the 2 sheriffs of Tennessee right now. And they're both about to be killing it.
Dude, no, like I'm glad you brought that up, that like most of the time we sit here like just begging for basketball season to come by. Dude, I didn't even realize like basketball season was starting until I started seeing like I have tweet notifications on for Tennessee basketball, and they started tweeting, and I was like, wait, hold on, like, wait, y'all played today? like that. I mean, that's crazy that again we're still in the spot with football, but Drew mentioned it earlier. Like, what a time to be a Tennessee fan right now, because like you can't even stop to enjoy one sport because there's so many other sports to enjoy at the same time. Like, yeah, Lady Vol basketball, they dropped a tough one to Ohio State. Honestly, should have won it. They were controlling most of it. Had a really bad third quarter where they gave up as many points as they did in the first half. Again, there's still a lot to figure out there. They've got new pieces moving around too. But they started preseason number 5 in the country. Men's basketball started preseason number 11, and we still have Vol football at number 5. So I mean, like, you look around our whole entire university, there's top 10, top 5, top 15 programs everywhere. Like, if you bored one day, look, like, Google Tennessee sports, and you probably find a top 10 team of ours playing or something. Like, just enjoy this moment.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. And I think, I mean, it's an unbelievable time being a Tennessee fan. I mean, especially as great as the football program's doing. I mean, and this is the most talented team Rick Barnes is ever going, in my opinion, is ever going to have at Tennessee. I mean, just from top to bottom, as far as depth goes and everything. And I mean, this is going to be a really, really fun basketball season, guys. I mean, I expect high things from this team, and I kind of like have one of those, like, expectations where if there's going to be a year where we make the Final Four, I think it's going to be this year. And just because we have more depth than we've ever had. I mean, this team, I think from a talent perspective, this team is more talented, even more than the Admiral and Grant team back in 2018 and 2019. I mean, just from top to bottom and just rotation wise as well. So unbelievable time being a Tennessee fan. Lady Vols, they'll get together. I'm not really too worried about them. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I didn't watch the game, but they'll get together. They'll get together one way or the other. And I mean, just soak it in, guys. I mean, this is going to be it's great to know that, like, once football season ends, like, it doesn't feel like we're waiting like 9 months for something positive. Like, we're going straight into basketball, and then before you know it, in less than 3 months, baseball starts up back all over again too. So, I mean, we're rolling, and there's just not anything anyone can do about it. So,
bro, that the whole thing is, during that basketball game, like, the Tennessee baseball team had the exhibition against Memphis and, like, smoked them like 38 to freaking like 7 or something. Like, it was crazy. I know it was 18 innings, but it was just crazy to see.
Like 23 runs in like the first 8 innings. So it's like
obviously crazy. Just to be able to, loop around the year and now consecutive stuff, like only having 1 month off after baseball ends and then hopping back into football. If all goes well with football this year and, like, we finish strong, the expectations of the hype and everything is just going to be absolutely crazy. Obviously, this week, got to take care of business with Missouri. I don't think it would be right unless we ended the show with score predictions. I said mine earlier, 59-17, senior day, emotional day. Tennessee goes out there, takes care of Missouri, and then the boys take care of Colorado. I got 59-17 Vols.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, I mean, a very emotional day. A lot of tears inside. Shield Watkins Field for sure. Not just the players, but obviously all 101,000 fans that will be there too. But I think they'll cover the spread. Vols are 20.5-point favorites. I think, quite honestly, it's kind of low. I was kind of expecting this to be 22 or 23. But I think, Hendon Hooker is going to have 5 total touchdowns, about 350 yards of total offense. I think easily over 500 yards of total offense for the team in general. And I got the Vols 49-17.
I don't have as specific stats as Drew had, but I do feel like Hendon Hooker rides the Heisman race, and I feel like he gets back on track with that. Offense gets rolling early. Mizzou tries to play from behind, and then, like you said, their quarterback's got an interception problem. I say we get like maybe 2 or 3 on the day. But I don't think we score as much as y'all are saying, but I do think we put up a hefty amount of points. I say 45-14.
I'm gonna say bold hot take that we've scored 35 points by the end of the first quarter.
Good.
Listen, that's why I said it's a hot take, but I said earlier,
that's going to be hotter than my score prediction.
Hendon Hooker is going to have the controller sticks in his hands, 4 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. The defense might score 6 total. I mean, bro, like, this is a get-back game, and you saw what he did to the team. Let him all in that circle, getting hype at him every single one. Let him know that this season's not over, and he knows more than anyone else that all the media talk, especially that Georgia alum that was with Roman Harrison today that blamed the loss on Hendon Hooker alone, like all the overrated chance, stuff like that. Hendon Hooker, Heisman Hooker, is coming out here controlling his own destiny. He's going to lead the Vols and he's going to get back for us. But he's going to, he knows what's at stake. I feel like this is definitely a game where he goes out there and just dominates. Their defense isn't all that.
I think they're gonna dominate for sure, but they're not going to score 35 points in the first quarter. I mean, their defense isn't good, but it's a hell of a lot better than last year. And even last year, we didn't even score 35 points in the first quarter. So let's just,
hey man,
you're setting yourself that was beyond hot take. That's scorching.
That's why I said hot. I mean, hey,
we were scoring. We were scoring every possession last season, and they were like 30, 40. 90 yards out. We were scoring as fast as possible last season and still only made it to 28 in the first quarter.
Their defense isn't amazing, but their defense is a hell of a lot better from last year.
Yeah.
They're still ranked top 15 in the country in defense. So they're not that
Brando said screw it.
Bro, I'm just saying this Brady Cook guy, he has more
logic. We're going to go.
This guy has more interceptions than touchdowns, and I haven't been able to say that all year since Anthony Richardson. This guy is going to have Tyler Barrett and Byron Young coming off the edge, Jeremy Banks coming up the middle, and I'll be damned if Jalen McCullough or Christian Charles or Brandon Turner is just out there making another pick. Danico Slaughter, RDBs might have their best game of the year just off scores alone. I don't know. This Missouri team, this isn't all that.
Did we even score 35 in the first quarter against Ball State? I don't even think we did it even against Akron.
Let me see. Let me see.
We scored points. We scored points.
Yeah,
and I'll be damned if Elijah Drinkowitz comes out here with memes against my football team. All I can think about is the guy in Columbia, Missouri, holding up the I'm sad sign as it says 52-17. And I'll be damned if we don't add a touchdown on top of that and it says 59-17. It's just, that's what it is, boys.
The most that we've scored in a quarter this year has been 21. And that was against Bama. 21 in the first quarter. Then we had 21 against Ball State and Akron in the second quarter.
That's actually really mind-blowing. I would never thought that Bama was the most points that we scored against an opponent in the first quarter.
Yeah.
If you don't think Joshua Heupel, with all of his, get back games against, Oklahoma, going down there against Bob Stoops' brother and Mark Stoops of Kentucky, going where he started off as offensive coordinator in Missouri. Obviously, this game, all the jokes that, Drinkowitz made about our recruiting and our staff now and our offense now, saying he's going to get his wins back, from forfeits. Let's go get some more wins in the win column. I don't care. It's personal with this team to me just over all the years. I'm not going to let it just because we've been dominant 3-0 the last 3 years. Missouri, ever since they joined the SEC, wouldn't to be a problem with us. I definitely think we go take care of business. If I'm there or not, I just see the energy being crazy. 59-17. I'm riding with it. I don't care.
Wait. I apologize. The most that we've scored in a quarter this season, total any quarter, was the second quarter of the Tennessee Martin game where we scored 31. So if you think that
it is so possible,
if you think that Mizzou's defense is worse than Tennessee Martin's, by all means, you take that 35 in the first quarter.
I'm doing it.
That's that now. I'm not going to have this conversation with you, Brando, because you're not being rational at this point. Okay.
Listen, I am the most sober I've ever been on a Vols ATB podcast, and I'll be damned if Hendon Hooker doesn't. I'll be damned if Hendon Hooker doesn't come out here and revive the Hendon Hooker Heisman. Is all happening.
There's nothing to be revived. I mean,
35. I don't even know if you have enough time. They would have to hand us the ball during kickoff.
If you don't think that Jalen Hyatt's running one route and getting open, boys, I just don't know what to tell you.
They would have to go 3 and out 5 straight times and less than 2. Yes. No, not even 2 minutes. Less than 1.
Yes.
That is not happening. No.
And they have to throw all passing plays and complete every single pass. That's the only way that's happening.
If we score 5 points in the first quarter, that is going to be one of the greatest performances in the history of Tennessee football.
And you better get ready for it because it's happening this Saturday on senior night, the last home game of the season and the best season in a long time in Tennessee football. And I'll be damned if we don't go out there and win this game 59-17. It is 8:17 p.m. in Central Time. I will not talk about this more.
Yeah.
And, obviously a huge week. We're going to be coming back here next Wednesday. Hopefully, with us.
Let's wrap this up.
We're going to be here 9-1, boys. I don't know what else to say, but, after that,
from from you, Brando. This is absolutely
We're going to smack the Tigers. Good night and go Vols.
not.
Whatever Brando drinking on, I hope y'all drinking on it Saturday because it is good stuff.
We're gonna win. Final thoughts. Okay, first of all, because Brando had to go his whole entire almost
final thought, whatever.
Outrage, freaking rant that he just had over there. I mean, that was the wildest thing I've ever seen in my life. But we're gonna win. All right, it's been an unbelievable season. Don't let Brando's irrational nonsense.
It's not irrational, man. We're gonna kick their ass.
We're going to win. We're not going to score 35.
What are you arguing ever?
Why is 59 too much,
bro?
We're not talking about. I don't care about the 59.
We didn't even score that much against Akron, and Akron's fucking ass, bro.
Okay.
Listen,
let's not be irrational here.
I'm being so rational.
Final thought. You're making me lose track over here. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Get it together, Drew. You're a professional here. I'm the fucking kid.
I'm talking about scoring 35 points in one quarter. We're going to win. We're going to win by 4 or 5 touchdowns. No one's argued that. No one's disagreed with that. Don't let Brando's madness over here suggest that we're going to have the greatest performance in the history of Tennessee football. We're still going to cover. We're still going to dominate. We're still going to kick their ass. We're just not going to score 35 points in one quarter because we couldn't even do that against UT Martin or Akron or Ball State. But we're going to win. It's been an amazing season. It's going to be a very emotional Saturday for a lot of us that are watching, attending, or, whatever. But, yeah, all right. I mean, and we're going to beat the shit out of Colorado on Sunday in basketball, too.
It is Derek duly noted that y'all do not agree with me that we're scoring 59 points and 35 in a quarter.
No. You're not twisting it like that. No,
I am doing it. Alex, any closing statements?
We don't care about that dang 59. We care about the outrageous 30.
See as a possibility. We think it's unlikely. 35 is just irrational. I mean, this is. I mean, crazy.
Anyways, my final thoughts. Senior day on Saturday. Show up, show out, be loud. It's affordable. It's not sold out, so get there if you can. Watch the basketballs, watch the lady balls, all kinds of good Tennessee sports going on, and they will continue for the rest of this calendar year into the next. I'm a firm believer of that, and balls are right there.
Yep. To be realistic, man, our destiny, everything we want, the whole path is right in front of us. Let's not get too bummed down about last night. Obviously, we go 3-0 in the season, finish strong. Tennessee definitely is going to be in the playoff picture. Basketball getting started, a lot to look forward to. I know next week, if we, win that game, the more weeks we play, it's going to get closer and closer. Just take care of business. Let's go stomp this Missouri team, man. They're not good. It's the last game in Neyland for the year, and I'll be damned if these kids, aren't crying tears by the outcome we show out with. So 101, 915, 12 o'clock kickoff. Go out there, be loud on CBS, and until next week, it's a good night and go Vols.
Go Vols, baby.